name is Margaret McGee. I'm the Business Services Manager. Business Services assist entrepreneurs and business owners in starting and growing their business. We help in navigating through the different departments within city government to obtain permits and licenses. We also connect the business community with organizations that can provide technical assistance, incentives, resources, and other beneficial programs to help operate your business. One way we do this is to host business information sessions. These sessions are held throughout the year, and the topics are gathered from entrepreneurs, surveys, and information we collect from the business community. This is a series of three sessions focusing on business funding, including JP Morgan Chase, local community development financial institutions, also known as CDFIs, and the New Orleans Tourism and Cultural Foundation, also known as NOTCF. If you missed our first two sessions, you will be able to view them on the Office of Economic Development YouTube channel. Today we have Ms. Clairvay Stenson, the Program Director for NOTCF. She will share an overview of her organization and NOTCF grant information, followed by Mr. Jared Woods, the Vice President and Senior Business Consultant with JP Morgan Chase. He will share information regarding business funding and how to prepare before going to your lender. To keep down distractions, attendees, please turn off your videos and mute your speakers. Please place any questions you have in the chat box and we'll answer them when we have the opportunity. All handouts provided to me will be shared within 24 to 48 hours after the meeting has ended. Now I'll turn it over to our speakers for today. Clairvay.
Okay.
Yes. I'm sorry.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Clairvay Stenson. I'm the Senior Program Director with the New Orleans Tourism and Cultural Foundation. We actually just had a name change, so some of you might know us as the New Orleans Tourism and Cultural Fund, but now we are Foundation. And that is for us to drive our mission to support cultural industries, culture bearers in the city of New Orleans through partnerships, grants, and programs to advance sustainable tourism in the city. So like Ms. Margaret has said, with our grants program specifically, it helps support cultural artists, culture bearers, and cultural industries in fulfilling programming, projects, activities, or events through financial support. Since our inception, NOTCF has awarded over 2,000 grants, and that inception is since May of 2021. So we are a baby foundation, baby organization doing a lot in the cultural community. And that funding is approximately $17.7 million that went directly to the cultural artists or cultural entities in the local area of New Orleans. At this current moment, our grant cycle is actually closed. So I wish I would have done the one before this, so you all could have had the opportunity to possibly apply. But it does reopen come January 2026. If you would like to know more information about that, I'm going to drop our direct website link in the chat. And who is considered a cultural artist? We have 6 different art sectors that we cover. So from those that do the ironwork preservation in Congo Square, that would be considered a cultural artist, to somebody in fashion design, that will be considered a cultural artist as well. As long as you fall within the 6 different art sectors, and those 6 art sectors include visual and performing art, visual arts, performing arts, culinary arts, literary and humanities, preservation, and design. I am dropping in the chat our direct website for you all to go to, and I'm actually gonna also drop our economic development plan. That economic development plan, and Margaret, I'll make sure I give you all of this so you can send it in that follow-up email to everyone. But that economic development plan has an actual chart in it to say what those 6 art sectors are, and it actually gives additional like examples of what falls under that. A lot of people, don't think of a librarian as a cultural artist, but they're keeping up with the preservation of our literary arts. So all of those things kind of fall in those different art sectors. Of course, we know our Mardi Gras Indians, jazz bands, our musicians, our chefs, all of those things, but even graphic designers qualify for funding, or event set designers, costumers, things of that nature also. And all of those things is what's driving tourists to our city. Our city thrives on our cultural economy. So that was another reason why this organization was actually formed. So this is the link that goes directly to, oh, that might not work. It should work. Somebody click it and let me know if it works, please. For our economic development plan. Yeah, I don't know if that one's gonna work. If not, I'll make sure that you all get the actual downloaded version of it, but that's the web version that can be found on our website. Again, our grant cycle reopens January 2026. It helps fund artists or arts entities programming, events, programs, or activities, not your operational costs for you to stay afloat or to start a business, but to help expand and sustain the businesses that you might already have. So we want to make sure that we sustain our local artists so tourists can continue to come see you, because that's what keeps our city thriving and our economic push going to help sustain you all. Yes, that does include dance instruction. That falls under entertainment. I like to answer the chat as I go because I know I will forget or people will forget. So yes, that does include dance instruction. All right, so next I would like to speak about our elevation series workshop. These workshops assist cultural artists. Hold on, sorry. We don't have the date set yet. So please just watch out for our website for when the grants reopen. But it will be early January 2026. It will be after the holidays and whatnot. Probably that second week in January, but once we have it set, it'll be available soon on our website, and I made sure I dropped our direct link of notcf.com. Cool. All right, so our Elevation series is a series of workshops that help assist cultural artists and industries by providing entrepreneurial foundations for artists that are trying to sustain their business. I've had the great opportunity of working with Chase in our last entrepreneur Elevation series workshop. We had over 100 people register and about 75 to 80 cultural artists show up on Bayou Road to get all of the information from Chase. So thank you, Jared, for that continued partnership. I think we've done an elevation series with Chase now about 4 times. But next month is our next elevation series. It will take place October 9th. I will drop the graphic in the chat and the link for you to register. October 9th at 6 p.m. via Zoom. The workshop is titled Digitize the Legacy, Using Technology to Grow Cultural Impact and Revenue. The purpose of this workshop is for local entrepreneurs to learn what practical ways of using AI and other digital platforms to help elevate their business. Like Jared and Margaret was discussing earlier, AI is really taking over in every which way or form. And it's a lot of platforms that use it and it's free. So how can you utilize these different apps or digital platforms to help sustain and grow your business is what this workshop will be about. It is in partnership with K. Allen Consulting Firm. I am dropping, you must register for this. I'm dropping the registration link now in the chat. And I'm also dropping the flyer for you to have all of that information as well. And once you register for the workshop, it'll automatically send you an email with all of the details, and you'll get reminder emails for when this is happening. But we're super excited about partnering with Crystal. We have done many other workshops with her. She is a former educator, and her business has grown with basically providing educational tools for business owners to sustain themselves or help grow your business. So she'll also be able to help you out and possibly coach you through things that you might need for your own personal business outside of this particular workshop that we heard was a need in the cultural community. And then last but not least, with NOTCF, we are about to get ready and host our annual NOTCF Honors Gala. It is a night with live entertainment, food and spirits, artist lounges, and of course, the culture. The gala is to celebrate living legends in all 6 art sectors, and we also award an emerging artist in the Lifetime Achievement Award. The Honors Gala is to give our cultural artists their flowers before they pass. A lot of artists said they were tired of memorials and they wanted celebrations. So we took it as that's our responsibility to put this on. And the Honors Gala is to not only give them the flowers, but to uplift and share with the city the work that these people have done for the cultural community, but then also for us to show you all what we have done year round as well as a foundation. We've actually just elected, and not we, sorry, the community, because we have a selection committee come in to actually vote on our 2026 honorees. So we will be announcing that very soon. I'm hoping tomorrow, if not tomorrow, next week for certain. Our gala is held January 9th, 2026 at Mardi Gras World. Our individual tickets will soon go on sale, but we are accepting sponsorships for tables. If anyone is interested, you can feel free to email us at gala@notcf.com. And also I want to say too about backtrack to the grants. The grants email, in case anybody wanted additional information specifically about the grants, that email is grants@notcf.com. But that is pretty much it. Also, if you all would like to have more information about NOTCF, you can follow us on all social media platforms except TikTok. We do not keep up with that. That's too much. It's at NOTC Foundation. That's on every platform, including LinkedIn. We have all of this information about upcoming events, workshops, grant programming, partnerships, and other cultural things that are happening in the cultural community that is shared with us. We like to share it because that's the community that we serve. Also, you can sign up for our e-blast list. We send out monthly newsletters. We share additional workshops or events that are happening for other partners that's in our database. If you go to our website and scroll all the way down, there's a section for you to sign up. And this just gives us your first and last name and your email address, and you'll automatically start receiving updates about our grants program, different events that we're hosting, different events that's hosted in the city, and other things that are going on. So if there's not any other question for me, I hope I covered everything. I'm finished, and I'm gonna just pass it on over to the famous Jared at this point. But this was great. Thank you, Margaret, for thinking of us to participate. I always like the opportunity to tell our community about what we do and how we can help serve them.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. Jared?
Sure. Thank you, Margaret, and thank you, Clairvay. And I just want to echo and give NOTCF some flowers. NOTCF is a critical organization, I think, to the city of New Orleans, not just because of what they do, but because of the mission of the organization. New Orleans is a very culture-based city, meaning that our economy is really driven by our culture. And I'm really proud to work with them, to work with the city of New Orleans to try to enrich the lives and the quality of life of the people that provide that culture, that give us, something to put up when people want to visit the city of New Orleans. Like, it's really the reason people want to visit this city. So I'm Jared Woods. I serve as Vice President, Senior Business Consultant for JP Morgan Chase. I'm sorry, we got a couple of questions for you, Clervay. I see that can NOTCF funds be used for events from Shy August?
So it depends on, that would technically be a program, activity, or event. It, like I said, it just can't be for your business operational calls. So I'm actually gonna also drop this in the chat.
Can you also reshare the link?
Yeah,
Someone
I see it.
Okay.
Okay. NOTCF.com. I just dropped my email in the grants email, and I'm about to reshare the elevation series link. Sorry, I guess we should have waited a few more seconds, huh, Jared?
It's all G, my G, because I feel like this is all related, right? Like you and I are here for the same purpose, and that's to give whoever's willing to listen some information and some tools that they could use to grow themselves, grow their business, or whatever it is. So I certainly don't mind.
And I really like that you guys are working together.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
It's been what, 3 years now?
It has, and I would say that at the center of that, the glue that holds it all together, her name is Diana Holmes. She's a community manager, and she's an incredible human being, and I'm grateful for her, even though she's not on this call. I'm grateful for her for the work that she does in connecting us to organizations like NOTCF, because it's a very strong, positive relationship, and I think we do good work together. So, my role at JP Morgan Chase as senior business consultant is to help business owners access information, much like the information that you're getting in this session. We want you to access resources internally and externally. I don't know if y'all know, but Chase is a real big bank, and they got a whole lot of people across the nation, across the world that know a whole lot of stuff. And sometimes, we have to utilize those folks' resources to help our businesses here locally. And so it's my job to connect folks to those resources, but also to connect folks to resources outside the firm, specifically locally, resources like NOTCF that, sometimes they operate or they play in a very specific field. And if it's something that can benefit your business, then I connect you to those resources as well. We also, through my program, we also want you to access opportunities. We help folks get certified. We help them register themselves into supplier diversity portals that afford them opportunities to do business with Fortune 500 companies, with city and state government, et cetera, et cetera. So we want them to have access to information, resources and networks, opportunities. Last but not least, we want them to access capital. Capital you need to grow your business. Capital is the fuel for everything. And truly, Clervay, you was making fun of me before because I got my little fancy PowerPoint here. But I'm going to share my PowerPoint, or whatever you want to call this. I guess it's a PDF. Hold on for me 1 second, y'all. Move this over here. I'll go to full screen. There we go. All right, so I'm gonna actually go right on back up to the top of this thing, because I was gonna skip over some parts, but we're gonna really fly through a few of these slides because I really want to talk to y'all, not at y'all, right? So what we're talking today about is the power of capital, really what it means to access capital for your business. I think we all know what the power of capital is, right? You know what money is. Money equals power. Money means you're flexible. You can do a whole bunch of different things. So I don't need to tell you about how powerful that is. What we're here to talk about is how do you access that power? How do you get that money to fuel the growth in your business? And why it matters how you do it is very important as well. But we all know that every business deserves an equal opportunity to prove themselves in the marketplace. And sometimes there's these fundamental concepts that, especially here in New Orleans, I would say, I'm from here. I wasn't here during Katrina, but I came back to New Orleans shortly after Katrina. And what I realized is that there's some fundamental things that our business owners specifically don't really use to employ to make their businesses better. These are some basic managerial functions sometimes, like just understanding your financial statements or having your financial statements. And I can say that, being from and living here for a long time, that there's always something going on here, something good or something bad sometimes, right? Like we had a snowstorm and a Super Bowl and a Mardi Gras, and that happened within the first 2 months of this year alone, right? Of course, we've had a pandemic, we've had hurricanes, we had spills, oil spills in the Gulf. All these kinds of things always happening here. And every single time something happens, I noticed that we're still scrambling after these things happen. We're still scrambling, trying to get all our stuff together, right? We're still trying to find, well, where's that document that they say they're going to need, even though it's pretty much the same set of documents that they need every time. So it's these fundamental things that I think, as a people, as a community, we want to educate our businesses on to make sure that they have access to the information and access to pathways of completing these things. So a good example is, the way our businesses bank, right? There's this acronym that I use all the time. It's called BAIL, BAIL, and it stands and it's BAIL relationships is what I call it. And these are critical relationships that I think every business owner should have, right? Regardless of what kind of business you're in, you should have these BAIL relationships. And BAIL stands for banking, accounting, insurance, and legal, right? You need all these relationships because there's going to be some point in time where you're going to need that relationship to help your business survive or to grow. A banker is going to be able to give you access to all kinds of bells and whistles that a bank can offer. I use Chase for example because, of course, they write my check every couple of weeks. But Chase for me is Chase for Business is, to me, second to none when it comes to working with businesses and the platform that it uses to serve businesses. But it's important for business owners to know that they can't just go into a bank and give their deposits to the teller, say hi, say bye, and then go. That's not a relationship with your bank. That's the bank's relationship with your money, right? Of course, the bank uses your money for other purposes, but because it's a depository institution. But what you need is a connection, a person inside any financial institution that's holding your money. You need a relationship inside that firm so that you can access that firm's resources. So everybody on this call, if you own a business, you should also have a business banker that you have a relationship with, not just going in and saying hi, but somebody that knows your business, knows your needs, knows your goals, and knows how to help you get there. The A is for accounting, right? Accounting is something that most of us aren't necessarily naturally good at. It's an acquired taste, as they used to say. It's something that you have to learn more about over time. As a business owner, do you have to be a certified public accountant to run your business? No. But what you should do is have an accountant that you trust on your team that can help you learn about certain things so that y'all can have more informed conversations about the finances in your business. Insurance, I think it goes without saying, especially considering where we live. Every year we get the crap scared out of us, whether or not a hurricane is coming through, and nobody likes to deal with insurance until they need it, right? And I think the same thing goes for legal. You never know when that legal storm is about to hit you. And it's important that you have somebody on your team that understands your business and that can help you navigate through those times. But today we're really here to talk about the cash, the power of capital, what it means, the kinds of capital that you can borrow. How do you position yourself to get the best outcome when you go to ask for money? And at the top of this food chain, right, cash flow is going to be everything. Thinking strategically about cash flow. And I like to use analogies a lot because it helps me understand. So hopefully my analogies will help you understand as well. To me, cash flow is the most important thing that businesses fail to learn to manage. It's funny because in our personal lives, we definitely know how to manage our cash flow, right? You know how much money on average you have in your bank account. You know probably to the dime, right, how much money you spend on your personal overhead, your average utilities for the month, your mortgage or your rent, how much you spend in gas, how much you spend on food. All these things are taking cash away from you personally. Well, in your business, it's the same thing. Your business needs cash to survive, just like the human body, is that analogy, just like the human body needs oxygen to survive, your business needs cash. Um, Oxygen flows to your vital organs to keep you alive. Cash is going to have to flow to vital pieces of your business to keep your business operating. I'll give you a really good example, right? If you have suppliers and you have to pay your suppliers to get your inventory, you need cash for that. Sometimes you can use credit, but mostly you use cash to pay your suppliers. You definitely use cash to pay your employees. If you don't pay your employees with cash, your employees aren't going to be employees anymore. They're not going to work for you because they can't get paid on time. They got their own bills that they need to pay, right? So you pay your employees with cash. You pay your rent or your mortgage with cash. You can't replace those payments with credit, really. And then you also use cash to reinvest in the business. But if you think about it, right, those vital pieces, if you don't pay your utilities, right, you pay your utilities in cash. If you don't pay your utilities, what happens? You don't have power. If you don't have power, you don't have a business. If you don't pay your employees don't come to work anymore. They're not working for free. You don't have employees, you don't have a business. If you don't pay your rent or your mortgage, they're going to kick you out. You don't have that, you don't have a business. So these are vital areas that cash needs to flow through your business, and you need to manage those things as a business owner. Now, how's cash flow management? So first of all, what really is cash flow? It's really just, it's not the sales that you make, right? Cash flow is the cash you receive from sales and how you spend that cash over a period of time. If you make a sale and you made that sale on credit, you're not going to get paid the cash for that sale until that credit card company until that debtor pays you on your payment terms. So cash flow is really about managing the actual cash that you receive and making sure that you have enough of it to take care of those vital parts of your business. When you borrow money, you have to do it strategically, because every time you borrow money in one way or another, that's going to impact your cash flow. But we'll talk about what the different ways are that you can borrow money, and understanding really how to know when to borrow money, right? So first and foremost, I'm just going to tell you, as a recovering lender, I don't do direct lending anymore. But as a recovering lender, I know exactly what many lenders are looking for when you send them a loan request. The number one thing that they want to make sure of is you can pay them back. That's it. It's not just about your plan to pay them back, but do the numbers support you being able to pay the loan back, which is why it's really, really important for your taxes. And we'll talk a little bit more about taxes later, but just know that when lenders are doing their calculation to determine how much money they can lend you, one of the critical things that they're using is your tax returns. So if you report to Uncle Sam that you didn't make any money, the bank or the lender is forced to look at that number and use that number in their calculation. So for example, if you report $12,000 in profit, if you divide 12,000 by 12, that means you have about $1,000 a month in profit. That means that you have to use $1,000 to pay your rent, your utilities, you need that $1,000 to pay any debt that you incur. So if you're asking me for $100,000 loan, and I know that monthly payment is going to be, $1,500, you don't make enough money a month to pay me back for this loan. So think about it like that. Be very careful about how you're reporting your taxes, and make sure you have a strong relationship with your accountant or anybody that's doing your books so that they understand what you're trying to do. A lot of times these CPAs, accountants, they're writing off everything because they think they're saving you money on the tax end. But if you need to borrow money, you actually don't have access to the capital because you're not reporting correctly. But lenders want to know exactly what you would want to know if you had a surplus of money and you wanted to lend it out. and there were people coming to you that you didn't know that were asking you to borrow money, right? You're going to want to know how long they've been in business. You're going to want to know what the plan is for this money too. Like, are you going to be able to do something with this to pay me back? They want to see a profitable business, right? They want to see a business that's not struggling, that's ready for growth. There's this little a saying that we have in banking sometimes, and it goes, when it's raining outside, the bank doesn't sell umbrellas. The bank only sells umbrellas when it's not raining outside. If you come into the bank and you soaking wet, I'm not about to sell you this umbrella, brother. And what that means is, if your business is struggling to survive, debt is not going to help you. My boss famously says, having access to money only fixes the problems that not having access to money creates. Meaning, if you operate a restaurant and you make nasty hamburgers, and that's all you do, you make hamburgers, but your hamburgers are nasty. You can take out all the loans in the world. That's not going to fix your business. Your business is struggling because you need to do something different operationally, right? So be paying attention to those critical factors. A lender is also going to look at the seasonality in a business, because that helps them identify a lending need. You really need to, there has to be an actual need for that matches the lending request. Of course, you need to build credit. Credit is like a report card. It's saying how well you behave financially. And of course, a lender is going to want to see that. Again, looking at whether or not this is an expansion or is this helping the business to survive in a way. We rather lend money to a business that's expanding than we are trying to lend money to a business that's just surviving. This is also why it's important to have a relationship with a banker, because if you need access to capital, you can talk these things through with a banker and they'll point you in the right direction, no doubt, right? And so talking about credit, we all know what credit is. It has different meanings, but today having access to credit just means having access to capital. Your credit worthiness or your credit history, your credit score is about your, again, it's like the report card on whether or not you pay your debts on time or you don't. I also have a workbook. I'll forward that to you, Miss Margaret, and you can forward that to the rest of the group. But when you're approaching a lender, right, the first thing the lender sees is you. The first thing they interact with is you. So I used to work for a community development financial institution, or CDFI, as was mentioned earlier. And this CDFI specifically did loans to small businesses. And one of the things I realized about my own behavior as a lender is that I make an assessment, not just of the business, but of the person. The way they talk to me, the way they present information, the way they receive information and follow instructions. What a lender wants to know is, one, you have a real firm grasp on what your business is and what your business needs. We also want to know that you're the kind of person that's going to work hard to accomplish your goals. There was when I was lending, I met a guy who came into my office. He's like a doctor or something like that. He came in, he was very, very arrogant. He was very cocky. He's like, oh, I got the best credit score in the world. If I ask you for money, you're probably just going to write the check. Okay, sir, what do you need? He says, well, I don't know. How much can I get? I'm like, oh, okay. So we had to start from scratch, had to figure out a few things, and I helped him put together a loan request that I was not excited about. That very same day, a young lady came into my office and she's like, I need your help. I need a business loan. I have an opportunity. I want to take advantage of this opportunity. I said, okay, well, tell me how much you need. This lady said, I need $37,852.75. Yo, my attention shot up right there. This woman knows exactly what she needs. She knows what she wants, and she knows how she's going to get to where she's trying to go. That makes me want to fight for her loan. Even if her credit score isn't the best, even if her financial situation isn't the best, I think I can help this person more so than I can help the guy who came in saying that he'll take whatever loan he can get. And so you represent, it's not just about how your business is presented. It's about how you present yourself. The bank wants to know that you are the right person to lead the business. They want to know that the cash flow is healthy enough to support the loan. And they also want to know if there's anything that you can put up to help secure or take off the risk of the loan, whether that be a vehicle, a piece of equipment, real estate, something that has cash value that you can say, if I can't go good on this loan, you can sell this thing to recuperate some of your losses. Now, of course, credit is one of the first things that's looked at, that financial report card on how you behaved with your finances. And I really am glad to be on this slide because people get confused with personal credit and business credit, and it's two different things, and I'll explain what those things are. One of these things is not like the other, right? One of these things is extremely, extremely important, and the other one's important, just not as important in my humble opinion. Personal credit score is the most important thing you're going to have to manage. Why? Because it's going to be a factor anytime it's going to be a factor even if you're not looking to borrow money. Sometimes if you even want a job or you want to rent out a place, they're going to look at your personal credit score and make judgments based on that. Your personal credit score is something you're always going to have to manage. Even if you're doing a business deal, you still have to personally guarantee the loan, even if it's for your business. That's just 99% of all loans require a personal guarantee from somebody, usually the main borrower on the loan request. So we all know what the personal credit score is, right? It's the FICO score, it's the number, but I'd be willing to bet that a lot of people don't know that you don't have 3 credit scores. You got more than 3 credit scores. You have 3 credit reporting agencies. There's a big difference. Credit reporting agencies only keep financial information from you. They don't score your financial situation. The business that pulls your credit score from these organizations, from TransUnion, they pull it from Equifax, they pull it from Experian. They pull that data from there and then they run it through their own scoring model. So if you went to Chase and ran your score, it could be different if you went to the car dealership and ran your score. The car dealership cares about different things than the bank does. So the car dealership has different formulas that they use based on your credit history. They have different formulas that they use to get to their score. They probably care more about whether or not you had a loan, a car loan refinanced or repoed. If you did, that's going to damage your credit score with them greatly. And so understand that you can't really manage the number, but you can manage the history so that you get the best number possible when whoever pulls it. Now, that begs the question, well, if the personal credit score is so important, what the heck is the business credit score anyway? And why do we have one? A business credit score is important, but it doesn't come into play as much as the personal credit score. There are some business loans that might look at a business credit score, but they're still also looking at the personal credit score. Business credit is typically more used when it's supplier to manufacturer, right? If you manufacture bicycles, for example, and Christmas is coming up and you got a huge order, but you don't have any bicycle seats. So you call the bicycle seat manufacturer and you say, hey, I need 10,000 bicycle seats because I got 10,000 bikes I need to make. I'll pay you after Christmas is over. The bicycle seat manufacturer might say, okay, let me check your business credit score. They check your score. They see that you've done stuff like this in the past. They see that your score is high enough and they say, okay, I'll give you these goods on consignment. You can have these goods now and pay me for them later. So it's usually a business credit score is usually a business to business transaction where one business is borrowing something, whether it be inventory or actual capital from another business so that they can use that capital to produce something and then pay those people back later. The game that is played in both of these arenas is owe somebody money and pay them back. That's the game, right? So personal credit score is almost everything on the personal side, including some stuff on the business side. It's how you handle your business credit cards. It's how you handle your personal credit cards. It's how you handle your personal loans and your business loans. It's how you handle your finances on a day-to-day basis is your personal credit score. Your business credit score is more so when you've done business with other businesses, they want to know how you financially behaved. So business credit score is still important, but it's not the same as your personal credit score. And I think the personal credit score is much more critical to manage. So the credit is usually the first gatekeeper, right? When you're asking for a loan, they're going to be looking at credit, they're going to be looking at capacity, and they're going to be looking at collateral. Credit, we kind of just discussed what that is. Capacity is literally your ability to pay the loan back. It's how well you manage your cash flow. It's how healthy your business is financially. Mainly what lenders are looking for is, can this person pay me back? That's it, right? Yeah, you got to pass the credit gatekeeper, but as long as you pass them, right? Like, okay, a lot of people can pass those folks. Where people really struggle is the capacity side. Why? Because they make errors like when you submit your tax returns, you didn't wrote everything off. I have a really good example. I had a guy, he was doing $3 million in sales every year, and he was feeling really good about himself. He come to Chase and he's asking for a line of credit for like 300,000 or something like that, which is reasonable. But when I introduced him to my banker says, hey man, I see you got really nice sales, but you only reported $12,000 in profit. That's interesting because I used that number earlier. He's like, man, that's only $1,000 a month profit. And the guy tells us, he's like, well, of course I made more money than that. I just didn't want to eat that tax bill. And, so that's why I look like that. Ha. And we told him like, hey man, that's not how that works, right? You got to pay Uncle Sam to get access to this money. So he asked a question. He said, well, how much do I need to show? And my banker straight told him, he did some calculations. He's like, man, I need to see maybe between $80,000 and $85,000 in profit for you to access this capital. He said, I'll be back with you in a couple of weeks. 2 to 3 weeks later, he comes back. He's amended his tax returns. He's already paid the $30,000 in taxes that he needed to pay. He said, yeah, I just ate the $30,000 tax bill. Well, when we ran the numbers, we was like, hey, guess what? This works. So while he was avoiding paying about $30,000, had he stuck with that, he could have saved that $30,000, but he wouldn't have had access to a $300,000 line of credit. So you tell me what's more important. Is it more important to have access to that $300,000, or is it more important to save that $30,000? That's really the difference between having access to capital and not. So just make sure when you're filing your tax returns, if you plan on accessing capital, or if you need to access capital during that year, just know you're probably going to have to pay something in taxes in order to do so. And so tax returns, one of the first things we look at. We also look at the balance sheets, right? So again, I like to use analogies. A balance sheet to me is like an X-ray of a business. If you go to the doctor, you get an X-ray, you see the bones. Well, a balance sheet is much like the bones of a body. It shows how your company is financially structured. It shows the foundations of the structure of the finances in your business. And how does it do that? Well, there's 3 main components of a balance sheet: assets, liabilities, and equity. If anybody knows that formula, the formula for the balance sheet usually is assets minus liabilities equals equity. Equity is the value of your organization. The assets is the value of all the assets that you have in your business. The liabilities is the debt that you incurred to acquire those assets, right? So if you have, for example, a home that you live in, and let's say you paid $200,000 for your home. I know we can't find no $200,000 homes in New Orleans, but if you paid $200,000 for your home, you took out a $200,000 loan, you paid that loan down to $50,000. The equity that you have in your home is the difference between the value of the home, which is 200, and what you owe on the home, which is 50,000. The difference between 200,000 and 50,000 is 150,000. So again, to reiterate, the balance sheet is simply showing how your business is financially structured. What debts have you acquired to acquire assets? What's the value of those assets, and what's the difference between the two? And to me, the profit and loss statement, which is, again, the next financial document that we'd be reviewing, the P&L statement or the income statement, as some people call it, is really like a map of the circulatory system of the human body. It shows how money flows through the business. It's like a funnel. At the top of that funnel is sales. As you funnel down, you have expenses, right? Your cost of goods sold. How much did you spend to produce your product? Then your administrative costs. How much did it cost you to sell your product? To manage what's your overhead costs? And it funnels down all the way to the bottom where either you've made more money, you brought more money in that you spent, or you spent more money than you brought in. If you made more, you have a profit. You're on the plus side. If you spent more, you're operating at a loss, right? Of course, we all want to be on that plus side. We all want to be generating some kind of profit. And the healthier that document looks, the better your chances are for getting a loan. So to reiterate, the three main documents that lenders are looking for are tax returns, balance sheets, and P&Ls. And earlier I said, living in New Orleans, people seems like they didn't learn their lesson when Katrina hit, when the oil spill happened, when the pandemic came around. It seems like every time these disasters come through, these organizations come in and say, hey, we have financial assistance, but we need you to turn in these documents. Normally, it's some variation of those three documents that we just went over. And still in all, people don't have those things ready to go. So just be mindful that those are really important documents. Even if you don't understand them, find a CPA that you can trust, find an accountant or a bookkeeper that you can trust that can help walk you through some of that stuff so you can start understanding it. Now, when it comes to accessing capital, right, there's a lot of different ways you can access capital. There's, I'm going to separate it into two categories. The first category is short-term debt. The second category is long-term debt. The way we separate a short-term debt need and a long-term debt need is by this formula. Whatever you're using this debt for, you should be expecting that investment to pay you back at some point in time. If you have a job coming up with the university, with Xavier University, and Xavier University is going to pay you $10,000 after you complete the job, that is a short-term debt need, because you need access to capital to help you complete that contract. And then when that contract pays you, which should be in less than a year, then you can pay that debt down. But if you're doing something like purchasing equipment, you expect that equipment to last you for several years. So it's okay for you to finance that equipment over several years, right? So the trick is, think about, when am I going to get a return on this investment that I'm making? Is it going to happen within a year? If so, then you need to use a short-term debt instrument like a business credit card. A business credit card is going to help you manage your day-to-day cash flow. It's going to help. It's very convenient for you to use and secure. But if you're still operating from your debit card, think about it like this. It's the same amount of money. It's the same amount of money. If you put $100 of gas on your credit card or $100 of gas on your debit card, it's still going to be $100 coming out of your account one way or another. The difference is, when you use your credit card, they give you points. They give you rewards for stuff, right? I just, last year, I went on a vacation. I didn't even realize I'd used my credit card so much. I had all these points. I mean, it literally cut the cost of my vacation in half, right? And I was pleasantly surprised about that. But in your business, it can do the same thing for you. It can offer you discounts on things and goods that you need to buy for your business, or it can offer you personal rewards where you use those rewards at a personal level. But a business credit card is something you use for a short-term need. And I'll give you an example. If I took any of you out to lunch, and let's say I spent $200 on that lunch, it's a nice lunch. If I spent $200 on that lunch, I don't want to pay for that lunch for the next 3 years. I want to pay for that lunch either by the end of the week or the end of the month, right? It doesn't make sense for me to finance a lunch for 2 years. But if I wanted to purchase a vehicle, I'm going to be using that vehicle to get to work, to do things in my personal life, I'm going to be using that vehicle in a number of ways over many years. So it's okay for me to finance that over that time. So to reiterate, that's just the difference between short-term debt and long-term debt. A business credit card is a form of short-term debt. So is a business line of credit. I say this, all businesses need both of these things. They need a business line of credit and they need a business credit card. A business line of credit operates very similarly to a credit card. It's just extended over a little bit longer period of time, in my opinion, right? So if I'm purchasing gas for my company vehicle, I might use a credit card. But if I have a contract with Walmart and I have to pay my workers, I might use a business line of credit to do that because I'm going to be paying my workers over a couple of months. Versus if I'm using gas, I want to pay for that gas by the end of the month. So business lines of credit allow you to attach expenses to certain projects. And when you get paid from those projects, you pay your line of credit down to zero. It's good for emergency funds. It's good for operating capital. And it's good to make sure that your business stays afloat when you're engaged in a business activity that doesn't pay you right away. Right. So business lines of credit and business credit cards to me are extremely important. Now, these business term loans, most people come to us and ask for those term loans. But the truth is sometimes they need a line of credit and they're asking for a term loan, or they need a term loan and they're asking for a line of credit. It's important to understand the difference between the two. Business term loans are for longer term investments. I just mentioned the car that could take you many different places over many different years. If you operate a kitchen, you may buy an oven or some kitchen equipment. I would anticipate you're using that equipment for a long period of time. So think of a business term loan as a long-term investment. You could even say, hey, I want to invest in a new employees. You can either use a line of credit or a term loan to do that, just depending on how you break it up. But a business term loan is a revolving, it's not a revolving credit, it's an installment amount. So you start with a balance, you pay that balance down gradually over time until you hit zero, right? Versus a line of credit where you charge it to the game, you pay it down to zero. Now you still have access to all that capital as well. But term loans we're probably most familiar with. But make sure that if you're taking on a term loan, it's not for a short-term need. Otherwise, you're going to create a cash flow issue in your business. Now, there's other ways that you can fund your business beyond just the credit cards and the term loans and the lines of credit. So everybody knows what SBA is. I do have to say this. SBA is typically not a lender. We hear SBA loans, but SBA is typically not a lender. If you borrowed money from the SBA directly, it's only been during a disaster. SBA only does disaster loans directly to businesses and individuals. Other than that, they do no lending. It's the financial institution that has a deal with the SBA that says, the SBA says, hey, if you do this deal, we'll cover a certain percentage of the principal balance, up to 75 or 85%. If you default on a loan that's $100,000, the SBA says we'll come in and we'll pay you, the lender, $85,000 since this person defaulted. So it's just a way to take some of the risk off of the table for a lender so that they don't have to tell you no, right? CDFIs was also mentioned earlier. These are community development financial institutions. They have much different criteria for lending than the banks do or traditional lenders. They can be extremely flexible. For example, a bank may have a minimum credit score of 680 versus a CDFI. They may say, we don't have a minimum credit score, or our minimum credit score is 600, right? So CDFIs function a lot differently than banks, but they should always be considered as a viable option if the bank can't lend you money. Venture capital, of course, that's when you're selling a piece of your business. There's good things that come with that, and there's bad things that, well, not bad things, but there's challenges that come with that. Good things are you can have access to a lot of money that can really fuel growth in your business. The flip side to that coin is that you may be selling a piece of your business, which means you're also selling a piece of control over decision making. So you might want your company to go in one direction, and these folks might want to go in another direction. If they put up some big money, they're probably going to go in another direction. And of course, Clervay was mentioning the small business grants that are available. I find that there are not that many grants available, but when they are grants available, you have to still have all that documentation ready to go so that you can take advantage of those things, right? So for me, that's really kind of the end of my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you all have. And I'm going to drop my contact in the chat as well, because, you know, I really like working one-on-one with people. And I understand that in these things, sometimes we have questions and we don't want to ask everybody, or we don't want everybody up in our business. So I'm going to put my email in the chat right quick. And if anybody has any questions that they wanted to ask me, I would certainly be happy to answer those questions. And we can connect via email. So if there aren't any questions, y'all, I thank you for your time. I thank you for your attention. I love doing this kind of stuff. I'm extremely passionate about helping our community, especially our culture community, and working with organizations like NOTCF. And of course, Ms. Margaret is always a great resource. So thank y'all again for your time and attention. Reach out to me if you have any questions. Thanks.
Awesome, awesome. Thank you both for that, those wonderful presentations. Do they have any questions? If you have any questions now, you could actually raise your hand and ask your questions. You have the professionals here to answer them. So now's the time to ask your question. Miss August?
Yes, I run a publishing company. So when I put out a new book a month, then my royalties or my revenue seems super high, but then it'll go back down slowly and become a lower rate than the months where it is spiked. How do I um how do I level that revenue so that it seems like it's more spread out than it is for when I'm looking for additional funding? Does that make sense?
Jerry, you're muted.
I told you it gets me at least twice a week. That's a very good question. It sounds like what you're describing is seasonality in your business. And there are a number of ways that you can address that. Again, I think having a banking relationship is important, because a bank is going to be able to see the ebbs and flows of exactly what you described there. And I think that they will be able to help you recognize when that seasonality is coming and put the appropriate tool in place. It sounds like to me that the tool you need is a line of credit, so that, like you're saying, you can kind of evenly spread things out a little bit more without disrupting your normal flow of business. So I think that, to me, it sounds like a line of credit would be the best thing for you. But again, I'd be happy to get more specific. If you want to reach out to me via email, we can go over your numbers. I can help you identify the seasonality and see what solutions we have to account for it.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And we got one more. We
Yes.
got. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, you go ahead, Jared.
Well, I think we got something for Clervay from Oswald that he's attempted to apply for an NOTCF grant. When the date is open to apply, he can't seem to get his app in fast enough before it closes. I guess he's asking about that.
Yep, I'm literally writing back so you can have it. So, yes, at one point, it became so competitive that within an hour of our grants opening, the system was shut down and closed because so many people were in the system. Our grants process now is a lottery process, so it will be open a full day. You can submit at any given time. of that day, your application and an automatic system is used to help us select who will get funding or a potential funding and scoring their grant and review. And if you make that mark of however many were not sponsoring, excuse me, reviewing and awarding in that particular cycle, if you make that number, then we will look at your application, vet it. If all of the information is in there that's supposed to be, as far as your documents that need to be submitted, if your program and event activity falls in line with the funding, and you have your budget submitted and all, then you will be considered for review.
Okay, Miss Uma has her hand up.
So I hope that answered your question, Oswald. We know that that was an issue amongst the community, and hence why we ended up reaching to many different orgs across the United States to find different ways of trying to have a more expansive and inclusive way of funding, not just the same people over and over again, but giving a wider range and opportunity for individuals to apply. So I hope that's helpful, but you can reach out to our grants team if you want like exact information about your specific grant, because we can give you like the actual timestamp, the date it was submitted and things of that nature, and also give you some coaching if needed.
Ms. Uma, you had a question?
Yes, I was trying to type it in the chat. There's some reverb. Okay, I don't know why I'm getting the echo.
We can hear you just fine.
Oh, okay. My question is about how would a business approach Chase? Which department in Chase is geared toward community sponsorships for business networks?
That's a good question. So we wouldn't have a specific boots on the ground person, but I would be a good person to connect with on that, as I am connected to a couple of our grant writing teams. So we have two different teams. We have a community engagement team that writes grants, and we have a global philanthropy team that writes grants. They both have similar but different functions. Global philanthropy is more of a multi-million dollar, multi-year, financial relationship with Chase, whereas community engagement's more like an annual basis, smaller checks, but significant enough. So I would be a good person to connect to see what it is that you're trying to do. And, my community engagement team will often come to me and say, hey, what's happening in the city that we can promote? Now, I wish I was the one who wrote those checks, but I'm not. But I can get you in that room, as it were, to get some traction. And I can also share with you, what some of the sweet spots are and help you prepare to talk to those folks. So if you'd like to connect with me about something specifically, I welcome you to give me a shout. Either email and I can put my phone number, or if you can just hit Miss Margaret up, she got my contact information too.
All right, I'll send you an email.
Sounds good. And then we did have one more question. I want to say that is Trinice. For business loan repayment, is only profits used to determine if the loan can be repaid, or do they look at other sources of income? Heck, yes. That's a great question, and the answer to that is a resounding yes. We are looking at so we're using your personal credit to gauge some of your financial behavior. That is a derivative of your personal income. Normally, if you have a business and an outside source of income, it's a combination of whatever you made from your business plus whatever you make from your personal income not affiliated with the business. If you are a startup company, you have to have an outside source of income, right? Because most institutions, they're not going to use your projected financials to determine your capacity. Remember, your ability to pay the loan back. They're not using your projections. We don't know if you're going to make those numbers or not. If you have historical sales and numbers, we can use those. But if you don't have that, then we can only use what we can historically have seen has actually taken place. So the short answer to your question is yes, outside source of income is very important when it comes to determining if you're eligible for a loan and also how much you're eligible. That's also where co-borrowers and co-signers come in to play as well. If you personally don't have enough income or your business isn't showing enough income to support a loan that you need, you can find someone who does have that additional income to co-sign or co-borrow on the loan so that it adds more income to the formula that they're using to determine how much you can afford. So it's very important that if you have any other sources of income, you identify them early and you can prove them as well in writing. Very good question. So Trinice, I see you're a startup company. You still working? Holla at me, okay? I'm gonna give you some tricks to the trade on what you can do to make sure that you're in the best position when you're ready to access that startup capital. I can help you understand and also point you in the direction of institutions that lend money to startups. A lot of banks don't lend money to startups. A lot of banks want you to have 2 years of tax returns already under your belt before they lend to you. But there are CDFIs out there that don't have such requirements. They're much more flexible than traditional lenders can be. So that's a very good question. So holla at me. Yeah, I don't see any other questions.
No more questions. Okay. So I want to thank both Clairvay and Jared for those awesome presentations and taking the
Excuse me,
time.
Margaret.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, are their contact information going to be in the documentation you send us of this?
Yes, I'll send their emails when I send out the handout.
All right, cool, thanks.
Okay. So again, thank you both for those awesome presentations and taking the time to be with us today. Thank you all for joining. Within 5 to 10 business days, this session will be added to the Office of Economic Development YouTube channel. This will conclude this series of business funding sessions. Please keep your eye out for future business information sessions, and I hope you'll join us the next time. Everyone have a great day.
Thank you. Y'all have a good one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.